Hello, I'm Thivane, and today we're going to be learning about how to solve simultaneous equations using elimination. So, what are simultaneous equations? On my screen, I have an example of a pair of simultaneous equations. And basically, they are two or more algebraic equations which share the same variables. By variables, I mean letters. So in this case, both of the equations share the letters x and y. Another thing to note about simultaneous equations is that when there is many equations as there are variables, we can solve these equations to find the value of each of the variables. Now, you might ask me, why can't we just do this with one of the equations? And I'll show you why. So let's take equation number 1. 2x plus y equals 18. So let me just write that out. And the thing is here, there is an infinite amount of possibilities as to what x and y could be. So let's say that x could be 4. This would mean that y would have to be 10. Or x could be 2. So y would be 14. And this could go on and on. So there's an infinite amount of possibilities as to what x and y could be. But we just want one value for x and y, which is why we have another equation. If we have another equation, we'll only get one set of values. So, I also mentioned the term elimination. Elimination is basically the process of eliminating, so getting rid of one of the variables. So we find the value of the other variable. We use this value and substitute it into one of the equations to find the value of the remaining variable. It sounds a little bit complicated, but once we get started, it'll be much simpler. So let's get started. So here we have our equations. 2x plus y equals 18 and x plus 3y equals 14. Now, the first thing we want to do is make the coefficient of one of the variables, so the number in front of one of the variables, the same, because this makes elimination possible. So in this case, we're going to try making the coefficients of the x's the same. And to do this, we need to make the x in equation 2, 2x. So what we would have to do is multiply the whole equation by the number 2, because whatever we do to one side of the equation has to be done to the other side of the equation in algebra to make sure that the values of x and y don't change. So let's do that. So 2 times 1 is 2x, and then 3 times 2 will be 6y, and then 14 times 2 would be 28. So now we have this equation. Sorry, my handwriting is terrible. So now we have this equation. Then what we're going to do is we're going to start the elimination process. So here we're trying to get rid of the x's. So we would do this equation minus this equation, so we'd get 2x. So we'd get 0x. So let's start. So it looks a bit complicated, but it's just simple subtraction. So let's just write down equation 1 underneath to make it a little bit easier. So here we have it. So we do 28 minus 18, which is 10. 6y minus y, which is 5y. And then we do 2x minus 2x, which is 0x. So now we're left with the equation 5y equals 10. And we're going to solve this. And the way we solve this is by dividing by 5 on each of the sides. So 5y divided by 5 is y, and then 10 divided by 5 is 2. So now we have a value for one of our variables, which is really good. So we have y equals 2. Now we're going to use this value and substitute it into one of the equations. So I'm going to try and substitute it into equation 1 over here. So what we would do is 2x. So now we're going to replace the y with 2 because y equals 2. So we're going to do 2x plus 2 equals 18. And now we're going to solve this. So we would start off by subtracting 2 on both sides. So we'd get 2x equals 16. And then what we would do is we divide both sides by 2. So we would get x equals 8. Now we have values for both x and y, but we want to make sure that our answer is correct, and there is a way to check. So we have equation 2 over here. We're going to substitute the values that we found into equation 2 to make sure that they work for equation 2 as well, not just equation 1. So let's do that. So x, so we'll replace that with 8 plus 3y. So we're going to do 3 brackets 2, and that would be 8 plus 6, and that is 14. And over here, we can see that x plus 3y equals 14. So we know that the values work for this equation as well. So now we can be sure about our answers. I've also put the steps down here for you if you need any reminders about what we've done. And here are some questions, and here's a little challenge with a word problem. So normally what I would do is I would allow the students to ask me any questions when I'm teaching them, just to make sure that they don't forget the question later on and they have their doubts cleared up immediately, and if they need help. So for these questions, I would try to let them do it by themselves, but for the challenge, I would probably allow them to talk. So I'd probably ask them about their thought processes before attempting it, because it is a bit different to what we have done here. But thank you for listening to my tutorial, and thank you for considering my application. I'm very grateful. Bye.